Good morning. All right. I just felt happy to be here this morning, so figured I'd say it. And welcoming to our growing community on YouTube, which getting thumbs up even before I start talking over there, which is fantastic. Thank you, all of you on YouTube. So let's see where the markets are at here today. I am impressed for it to come back on this weekly reversal here. We still got a couple of days to see, and I think it could be a critical day today as to whether the markets can hold on to their gains here, whether they keep going or, whether they flatten out or pull back. As you can see here, the S&Ps are right up near this high, so it's a perfect point for sellers to try and take control. And yesterday, markets backed off a little bit, nothing serious, but when they couldn't continue to move higher, some selling hit near the end of the day. Now, as we look at the other markets, there are concerns because, as of last night, the Russell was a sell setup. We'll see if it follows through today. But, we've got the S&Ps up here near a prior high, an obvious place where sellers are going to give it a shot, either to short or, to take profits. It's just, that's the way markets move. There are sellers at resistance and there are buyers at support, and its prices came down to this level, which after last week's crack, honestly, I thought, I said it, wrote it in a letter, and I thought it was coming down here, which would have been, in my mind, my view, the perfect point to put on some longs. But buyers are so enthusiastic to fall over themselves on this market to even just step up at this relatively minuscule area of support and then take the market back up to the highs. Now, it's not all-time highs. There are other reference points to deal with if they can continue to go up here. But the fact that it's negated this large red bar is impressive, because to do that after 9 or 10 weeks moving up, I think this is the 10th week from the low here, and then it was 9 weeks of making higher low bars. The record was 10 in the past, as far as I know. And then it broke it last week. And when a bar of that size, it was suggestive it could come down to a lower level, which to me was here near the 50, which would have been kind of like what we call a no-brainer place to put on longs. Now, it would have been a deeper retracement, but it would have been a normal retracement based on a red bar and then a pullback within an upward move this way. So that doesn't happen. Now, so what's it going to do today? Sellers should continue to try and take control. We'll see if it breaks yesterday's low. Or does it go sideways or even move up? So, looking at the Qs, they exceeded it. Now we've got a topping tail bar, and it retraced more than 50%. It closed in the lower, just say 20% of the range, but above the opening price. Nonetheless, it took out the highs, and now it has a void above. Now I'm just going to inch this line up here. So it's in alignment with that swing high, that pivot high, which that PH means that it's got 3 lower high bars to the left and right. I guess that's your speaker, trader. Okay. So that's the reference point came into play there. And so now we'll see the same thing. Does it begin to pull back? What's it doing pre-market here? Absolutely nothing. Just going sideways. No one's running for the exit doors here. Rather, what we see is a buying on the dip down here and so forth, just holding on. So pre-market, we have a trading range that's been put into place. So for day trades, day traders, looking at this, you've got a short-term range here. Good morning, Ladon. We've got a short-term range here to say, hey, if it clears here, could it continue to move up? Absolutely. Just because it's up multiple days in a row, that doesn't mean it can't go up more days in a row, but it is at resistance. So it's not a place that you want to initiate new longs unless you're willing to use either a relatively tight stop under a prior day's low or a relatively large stop under this swing low. So, either way, the shorter one, you may get stopped out on a wiggle, but maybe it pulls back hard. That's the unknown. You give it the big stop, well, maybe it jiggles around and eventually it goes higher. One of the things to understand about technical trading, well, we all know that there are no guarantees, but the proper entry points at certain points in time are going to have different probabilities. So a stop under this low after 4 days of reversal and up are going to have a greater probability of getting shaken out, whereas putting a stop down here is going to have a lower probability of getting shaken out. But if you share size it appropriately, it's not going to be a big deal as far as any loss. But you can then, let's say, what I would do is if I wanted to get long here, and I don't at the moment, I would do a smaller position with a stop down here with an assumption of a higher low and look to add to it at that point. Or you can wait and see if it pulls back or consolidates and then put on a full-size position. So, there's different ways of approaching an entry point based on the setup that you're dealing with. Now, the Russell, that had the deeper pullback, not quite down to the major support area, but now it's come up to minor resistance, and it's below the 20 MA. It's got a narrow range bar topping tail. That's a sell setup. Now it's got to break. It's got to break that low to trigger the sell setup. Now, this is a little bit of a tricky situation, with the Qs, showing such strength. The spiders showed strength. They cleared this high here, but we've got this topping tail. The Russell underperforming. And then we've got the transports, which are also underperforming. And these two together is not unusual, but when, for them to underperform together. But when they do, you got to be careful as far as, thinking long just on this side. So keep that in mind. It's probably, if you're going to get long this, at this point in time, use relatively tight stops and stop out. Even a smaller position with a relatively tight stop, and maybe it keeps going. And so that could be, based on this weekly chart, the best way to go, because at least you're in the position. If it just keeps going, maybe this does the unimaginable, I get that out after such a run, and now we got a red bar ignored, that this just keeps running higher. Maybe, smaller position, getting to the end of the week, you look to add next week, assuming everything holds up. And if that's the case, I'd like to see the Russell not follow through to the downside here, because what we'll have here, let's assume it does pull back a bit, maybe without collapsing. We're going to have a 1, 1, 2, 3 potentially reversal or continuation pattern. Let's just get my little drawing thing out here. All right, there's the 1 bar. The 2 bar is the consolidation in the lower half or lower third. And the number 3 bar is to push down. Sometimes you get another inside one and then it goes. But in any event, that's what this pattern is suggestive. And what we have here on the daily supports that. So we'll see. And there's our transports, which usually do nothing. Pre-market diamonds also weak there. So we got different setups here. They're not all in alignment, which they were all in alignment on the way up. Everything pretty much looked the same. Now they don't. So everything isn't so terrific, even though, meaning the markets came back, the Qs came back and totally negated that red bar completely. So you got to be a little careful. We're always careful, but could be could get a little tricky here. And there's our pre-market trading range from yesterday, and the gray area is pre-market if you're new to what's happening here. So we take a look at the futures, and it's typically the same story, a little bit different. Now, when I look at this chart, I think to myself, which I always do, what could this possibly be setting up? Well, it could be setting up an inside bar, and then tomorrow a trade under that would be a type of breakout bar failure. You know, obviously, I don't know how this is going to end up at the end of the day, but if today does end up being a go nowhere kind of a day where this is an inside bar, you have to be aware of that, because that was the setup. And Roku, not exactly the same, but the concept is the same. And when we shorted it the other day, this bar was a little tiny inside bar here, and we drilled into the intraday time frame to take a position with the assumption that this was going to happen, and it did happen. So it just was a little bit of a understanding of patterns, and honestly, a little bit of luck, that it just followed through as it did, and then it gapped down yesterday. So kind of a little variation of what we're looking there, and the futures, where you've got a wider bar. Today could be an inside bar, and then if it breaks the low, we could do some intraday shorts. And again, this has resumed its uptrend by taking out this high, and now this has become our new reference point of major support. Qs, same story, actually a better story, so to speak, and our new reference point of major support. And what that means, if it breaks below here, then that violates the uptrend in this time frame. And weakness, futures, bonds, a little bit of weakness here, just consolidating what appears to be a downside shakeout. And what that means is sideways down. It retraces back up, it goes sideways, and then it would break out. So maybe a few more days of sideways here will increase the probability of this being able to move up, rather than just maybe being a lower high and back down. So not developed enough yet to really tell, but this dip down here and that wide bar is more suggestive of the sideways consolidation that could move higher. Gold, that's a little bit of a surprise. I hadn't looked at that yet. We talked about the fact that this was still in an uptrend, pretty bit of a bigger pullback or a bigger bar, and the stabilization here. And now that's a bit of a nasty bar here, right at that minor resistance area. So it was an obvious place for sellers to take control, but I was kind of thinking that they could take it a little higher, but that's not happening. And lastly, oil looks great. The oil stocks don't yet, but this is supportive of that. Maybe they're going to get turned around. This red bar ignored, this sell setup totally negated. And I'm just going to show you something here. This setup here, like here's a big drop, and this is a red bar ignored. Well, that's completely different, and different probabilities of a red bar ignored after a run like that toward resistance. I've seen these work, but this has a much greater odds of negating the red bar after a climactic move down and retracement, where this could have become a lower low or maybe a W pattern, but that reversal has greater odds of pushing up than one that going up for 9 weeks in a row. So bit of common sense, but maybe not so obvious when you're first starting out, looking at charts and understanding how they work. That being said, all yours, Dan.
Hey, good morning. Thank you. Yeah, that USO, you mentioned it in our ETF letter over the weekend. We got them in the gasoline, and this looks great. I'll put it on my list for some bullish stock and option trades. And so it is weird how the stocks are lagging in the sector. All right, I just posted Ozark right here, bearish consolidation, new trade, target, gap fill. Nice breakout failure, topping tail. Boom. You know, just do it. That's Nike. Just do it. Hit the mouse. Here's our 1, 2, 3. We had put spreads in both letters, one that expires tomorrow, one that expires next week. They're both doing very well. Netflix actually stopped us out yesterday at a small profit. We had a call spread. AWK, we're long stock, we're in trail mode. HCSG, we're short stock in trail mode. CCI, we're long stock in trail mode. DTE, same. Lulu, call spread. Tyson, we legged into a covered call yesterday at a perfect time to lower the cost basis. Triple V, Victor, short stock in trail mode. NVIDIA, we're not in, but I'm watching this weekly. That's a nice weekly bottom. Next pullback, that's viable. CMA, we're short stock. I see one little print down here. I hope it's true, because then that's a nice gap down. I tighten the stop to over 83. Sell setup yesterday in Dropbox, we're short stock. Mealy, we're short naked puts. Way the heck down here. The 370 puts.
Why, Dan?
Why what?
Not why are we short naked puts? Why does this stock have such juice so far away, which seems like free money? And for the most part, that's pretty difficult to find.
Well, I know, and that's why when I found it, I pounced on it. And so just a couple things. There are no gifts on Wall Street, okay? So it's historically has high volatility, so that this is a Rottweiler. It's not a nice, golden retriever. So secondly, it's not earnings, but sometimes when you see juice that high, I put a disclaimer saying there could be pending news that I don't know about. Maybe they're going to have a new product launch, maybe whatever. But you're right. It was incredibly juicy juice. And secondly, the reason we're naked puts instead of a spread is because it's spready already. But number two, the out of the money puts were crazy spready. So that's the time where I don't want to give up half of my credit just to have a spread. So I'd rather do it naked. And we're already at 50% of max profit in one day. We entered today's Thursday. We entered Tuesday. Wednesday, we're at 50% of max profit. Love it. Trader, your drop down, please. Continuing, the marijuana stocks were popping yesterday. I alerted our subscribers pre-market yesterday that this was on our long watch list, and we shorted way out of the money puts. It looks fantastic. If we get like a 1, 2, 3, I'm going to give a directional on this. That's a nice gap, not too excessive. We got our intraday set up. And that's textbook. Greg's course has a 7-step process, and I just kind of simplify it for expediency. Compelling gap on the daily, on multiple time frames, and intraday entry. It's that simple. Boeing, we're not in, but this is apparently when the grounding news came. And look, 100% retracement, bullish head and shoulders. Well, that's the 5-minute chart. I like the 15. But same thing. That's a reverse head and shoulders. If this can go sideways, 30-minute high, trader, what will we be doing? You got it. I will be selling a put spread on this. The pattern's there. The news is out. It's not a directional. I got bottoming tails. I got volume. I got high volatility. You got it. You know, that's what we do. And one of my modules in the Mastering Advanced Credit Spread course, it's, you know, an awesome course. One of them is dedicated to this, selling options on news high volatility stocks that are, you know, crashing like this. When, you know, I even have a chart in there called, you know, when the storm passes. When we were scanning pot stocks yesterday, I like this one. Capra is on my watch list. PYX was on my list, but, you know, have a topping tail. We'll see if it can settle down here. But I like red bar ignored with a price void on the weekly. This is a nice daily. And there's a lot of juice in the marijuana stocks. So that is a put spread candidate. Cisco, we sold naked $51 puts. It's just, you know, look at this monthly. I mean, here was a beautiful trade. Hey, Greg, I don't know if you remember this, and I forget where exactly, but I remember you giving a core long trade on Cisco at 20 bucks. Might have been right here. Might have been right there.
Well, I still don't have it, so I can't take credit for such a great move.
But I remember when you said it, it's like, you know, Cisco used to be one of the titans, you know, with Dell and Intel and Microsoft and the old internet.
It was dead for years.
Right. That's the exact point. That's the exact point I'm making, that you said it when it was dead. Exactly my point.
Well, you know, Dan, we just follow the chart.
All right. I think I got them all. Let's look at some gappers here real quick. Why bear put debit spread rather than just Sean? That was actually the exact subject of our MT live yesterday. So in a nutshell, it's limited risk, it's leverage. We still have positive time decay, and you can short the IWM. There's no problem doing that whatsoever. But it's a great little swing setup using a debit spread for low cost. But check out the MT Live. We put them all in the resources tab. Whirlpool here, trader mentioned it to me. I like the weekly. I don't like it as a swing, topping tail at resistance. But if it can build maybe a retest here on the daily, then that's a great put spread setup. T2, 93 bucks. So, you know, I just marked 93. So that's gapping a little greater than 50% into that. It's a bearish gap, but there's a lot of support here with a 180 beautiful reversal at the low. So there's really no good setup there. Snap I like. Already, you know, here's your core entry. And I remember mentioning this too. I think we were in it. I remember that pattern saying it's a reverse head and shoulders on the weekly. We did trade this. But, you know, we're out of it now, but it's a new setup. Still has room maybe to 1150, which is not huge. It's only $1 higher. Let's keep an eye on that. I have it in my upper right screen here. Golf Hotel. We have less than a minute. Gapping up to 96 bucks. Shoot, I thought it was gapping more this morning. Anyway, I like this. If this were gapping to like trader, another quiz. If this were gapping up to like 105, 110 bucks, what would I do with it? Some of these airlines, that was nice 1, 2, 3. We're getting nice reversals, higher lows on the weeklies. ALK, somebody mentioned yesterday. I like this. That's a beautiful, if this can go sideways, that's a 30-minute high setup. Our CMA did gap down, good. ALK, I'm putting in a window. This is a fantastic short-term put spread and or 1, 2, 3 day swing trade, just for a counter trend. This is a climactic buy setup, 2-bar reversal, downside shakeout, then a downtrend, daily, weekly, monthly. So it's just a little counter trend trade. but that's a beautiful reversal right there. LaDon, I already talked about Lulu. We got a bear call spread. I do remember you asked me about adding yesterday, and I said I like the way you think, but whenever you asked me, it was